west, it's a young McDonald they have taken from the door. Isaac was my friend, he cried, he begged them with his tears. But centuries of hatred have ears it do not hear. An eye for an eye, that was all that filled their minds. And another eye for another eye, till everyone was blind. There were roses, roses, there were roses, and the tears of a people run together.
It's a very sad period of Irish history, perpetrated by more than one side. I'm nearly 60, I've got a lot of memories from the Troubles. Well, let me see. There's a friend of mine, I won't give his full name, but his nickname was Starchy.
Okay.
And in the 1970s, his mother sent him down the town to pick up till his father that his dinner was ready. And his father was in the pub. And as he went into the pub to tell his father his dinner was ready, the pub blew up. And he was killed. And his father wasn't in the pub, his father was next door in the bookies. He was 12. Sticky Q's. He was hijacking the bus on the Camera Road, and he came out and was running away, and he was shot 7 times in the back. He was 17. Kevin Heatley, 12, playing cards up in Derrybeg, stood up to walk away, and he was shot twice in the back of the head. That's only the gist of it. I can go on, but I won't.
Do you think the Troubles have ended?
There's an underlying problem. So there's simmering underneath. There's groups underneath who are still Neanderthals. You can't accept anything but what do you think is right? Nobody else is right. It's right. 1976. There was 20 odd bombs in Uri on the one day. I was at home. I was only a youngster, but they blew the town to pieces. Well, it affected everybody because all the jobs were gone. These ones were blown up and shooting and killing and all, and then at the end of the day now, for what? You know, these ones who were doing all the problems, causing all the problems, are now politicians and councillors and, you know, crying the odds that they haven't got this, they haven't got that, but they're the ones who caused the problem in the first place.
Good evening from Castle Buildings at Stormont outside Belfast on the day of a truly momentous agreement.
A historic day at Stormont after 2 years of talks and after a generation of bloodshed and decades of division and acrimony, George Mitchell ushers in what the whole island hopes will be a new era of peace.
Walk with me through the shadows and the dust. Take my hand and watch the wire as the iron starts to rust. Come with me to the east side and the west, and watch as both sides fight it out to determine who's the best.
They won't want to go back to what they've had over the past 30 years.
What are we fighting for, and what's it all about? We are the lucky few, the ones that made it out. Ceasefire, put down your arms and live another day. The conflict is still alive in many different ways. You don't walk with me on the 12th day of July. You wave your flags and beat your drums and wish my side would die. I'd be a hypocrite to say my side has not done wrong, because for 20 years before my time they waged their war with bombs. What are we fighting for, and what's it all about? We are the lucky few, the ones that made it out. Ceasefire, put down your arms
If people want to be that way, that's okay, as long as they live there, that there's equality, that we're part of Ireland, and that we stay in there, and it is Ireland, no matter why they're in the United Kingdom or not.
So walk with me, no matter what side that you're on. We share this life, we share this land, and now we share this bond. We have different towns and different names and flags we choose to wave, but this island that we live upon is both of ours to save. What are we fighting for, and what's it all about? We are the lucky few, the ones that made it out. Ceasefire, put down your arms and live another day. The conflict is still alive in many different ways. So let's just work it out and bring it to an end. Call me by my name, your neighbor and
Fundamental
your friend.
to resolving this problem is agreement. And agreement threatens no section of our people.
I was born in a really weird year. I was born 4 years before the peace process was finalised. And I say that in air quotations because if it was finalised when I was 4 years old, then I should technically have no memories of it, and I should be part of this fantasy generation that doesn't remember hate coming towards them. I went to a Catholic school, as most Catholics do in Northern Ireland, the same way most Protestants go to Protestant schools. I disagree with the segregation, but that's just the way it is. And the town that my school was in is a very predominantly Protestant town. And we were warned not to go into town in our uniforms because you'd be spat on by people in the opposing schools, or you'd receive abuse from cars, things like that. I think growing up here has influenced me in ways that I would never know. Like it's strange to me, having gone to university in England, it's not a million miles away, it's just across the water, and the cultural divide is ridiculous. I think that it has definitely influenced me as an artist. Like my lyrics are always very scenic and about home, but I think there's definitely a political current underneath it. Like, I am lucky that I've grown up after the Good Friday Agreement, that I am able to identify as Irish and hold an Irish passport and all of those things, but I'm still not allowed to be patriotic. Like, you look at Americans, and this isn't a rub against Americans or anything like that, they're allowed to fly their flag, they're allowed to be proud of who they are, they're very proud of their military, etc, etc. My dad served in the Irish Army, but I remember my brother telling one of his friends that when he went to university, and immediately they assumed he meant the IRA. So you're not allowed to be proud of it. You're not allowed to celebrate your culture and your heritage. Do I think the troubles are over? I don't think we'd be making this documentary if the troubles were really over. I think there's a long way to go, and there's a lot of passing down of hate in families. And to be honest, I don't think people realise why. Like, if you came across a Protestant on the 12th of July who was lighting tricolours on fire on a bonfire, and you asked them, why do you hate Catholics? They probably wouldn't be able to give you an answer. And to keep balanced in the same regard, on the 15th of August, if you asked a Catholic, why do you hate Protestants? Then they probably wouldn't give you an answer, or wouldn't be able to give you a clear and succinct answer of why that is the case. So do I think the Troubles are over? I think there's a long way to go. You're starving the children till all dreams are dead. Sun is shining, but I hear thunder roll.
I've grown up in the 70s and 80s here in Ireland, and all the bombings and places being blown up and people losing their lives for no reason. I can remember I would have been maybe 18, 19, and I was working in Newry, and there was a bomb went off, and there was a lot of shooting going on, and the soldiers were running up the street, and one soldier was actually hit and fell in the doorway of where I was working. Don't ask me for why, but I automatically pulled him in until the paramedics came, and when they arrived they opened his jacket to help his breathing, and he was wearing a cross and chain, which just goes to, you know, all British soldiers weren't Protestants. There was a lot of good on both sides. There was good and bad on both sides. And as I got older and had my own children, if we were walking down the street and we saw a soldier, they were always known as action men. And I think that was a good way to bring my children up, because they didn't have that stigma attached to them. I didn't lose any personal friends through the shooting, but I did go to school with a couple of girls from Crossmaglen whose brothers were shot for no reason. They were driving in a car and they were shot in the back, through the back window of the car. Other than that, I can remember the Narrow-Water bombing. Now, we would have lived about a mile away from Narrow-Water, and our window and 3 houses adjacent to us, all our windows were put out. And a few years later, I went to what was known then as Yugoslavia for a holiday, and we'd met up with a couple of boys from Scotland, and they were asking us where we were from, and one of them was actually one of those soldiers that was in the Narrow-Water bombing, and a nicer fella you couldn't have met.
Doing with your head up in the clouds, but there's no place for distraction. Let's turn this world around. Back when I was younger, and it all seemed just fine, but that's the case no longer.
I had hoped they had, but at the moment I think they could start up again because of all this conflict with the protocol and Brexit and everything else that's going on.
I don't know where the moral is or where the song should end, but I wonder just how many wars are fought between good friends, and those who give the orders are not the ones to die. It's Scott and young MacDonald and the likes of you and I. There were roses, roses, there were roses, and the tears of a people ran together. There were roses, roses, there were roses, and the tears of a people ran together.
I grew up in a little town right beside the sea. All you see for miles and miles is mountains, grass and trees. In the hideout or square peg, we're drinking round the shore. Long walks in Kilbrony Park, or climbing up Clockmore. It's the town where I was born and raised. It's the place where I was truly made. Pull me into the dark.